go. Live Pro Football Doc Sports Injury Central podcast. We're in the war room here. Taylor's here. Doug's in the room. He'll monitor any breaking news. And hopefully we've got some of the technical bugs figured out. When I say we, I mean the crew and the
Not
staff.
you, yeah.
Or they.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about tech and all this other stuff. But I do like this live idea for this thing. Number one, a lot of the news is breaking and you can see it in real time instead of our posting it later. But the main thing is I'm told this has interactive capabilities where you guys can ask questions, whether through X Live, through Instagram or YouTube or InstaFace, as Bill Belichick says, or whatever. So we welcome all of that. If you miss something, it is recorded and it will go to the Believe Network and Apple Podcast and wherever podcast things are. Like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. We're doing 10:30 Pacific time right now and 1:30 Eastern. We might move it to 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, just because it's so busy here in the morning and we want to have it be appointment listening, viewing.
We want to lock it down though, so we get everybody in a routine and everything.
We really have enjoyed. I've really enjoyed the response on. I don't know what happened to algorithms or whatever. The halftime injury chats have been really good, I think, and that's every quote halftime. Although, is it the first minute halftime or 5 minutes in? It depends.
Right.
Super hard for the early games when there's 10 of them. NFL, can we not do 10 of them? I mean, 10-3. That was the split. 10-3. We don't need 7-6, but can we do 8-5? I mean, an 8 box of games. You can't even have a 10 box, right?
We do a pretty good job, but still 10 is just overwhelming. It's hard. So much, visual stimuli going around.
We'll get to it. Is we saw Graham Gano's injury, hamstring on the opening kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
And we said kicker. We didn't worry about it that much. But because we're following injuries here in the war room and there's 10 games going on, that's a huge story. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that one. That is a huge story. And I'll tell you why. Anyways. So, all right, let's get started with this week's. We definitely will do the rundown with all the athletes, but I
want to let everybody join and stuff, let everybody gather, and we'll talk about some stuff before.
Yeah, let's get started. Where do you want to start?
All right, so I just want to have maybe we obviously have the big questions people can ask about this stuff.
And if you ask the questions, Taylor, you'll track them, and then we will be sure to get all the questions. But I think you in the war room, you guys said, to me, maybe I'm jaded. I think Tua is old news, but I'm still getting a ton of Tua questions. Every baseball dad is Tua.
Yep.
Tua. Every that is Tua. So maybe we should address Tua some more.
Have maybe a little open forum and have some questions and dialogue about what's going on. Yes.
All right. So let me start with the opening salvo here. And Taylor, you ask questions or you field questions
for sure
from the audience here. So the number one question is, should Tua retire? And I've seen the polls. I think it's 80 or 90% of the audience says that he should retire.
A lot of pundits as well. Yeah.
And I would say maybe he should, but let the doctors and Tua gather all the facts and information first, is what I would say. If you ask me this question, what's the best thing for Tua to do for his health and the health of his brain and his perhaps future kids and his family? Zero question in my mind. Quit playing football, period. Quit playing the collision sport, not contact sport, but the collision sport of football. But I would also say that goes for his 52 teammates on the Miami Dolphins, including those who have never had a concussion. What's the best thing for you to do for your brain health? Quit playing the collision sport of football, period. And so I'll put that out there. If Tua is trying to do what's best for him and his health, absolutely he should quit. And he should have quit in 2022, and he should have not entered into the NFL from his Alabama concussion that he had in college. Now, just get that out of the way. Now, What is the risk for him to continue to play? We don't know that yet, but Mitch Morris, and I'm not comparing concussions, Mitch Morris, now the Jacksonville Jaguars,
center, yep,
used to be Buffalo Bills, has had 6 documented concussions. No one's calling for him to retire. And he potentially has lots of subconcussive blows.
Say Pratt Fryermuth as well. He's had 3 in his very short 3-year career as well, which is also,
and I'm sure we track there are some others.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying Tua shouldn't retire. I was there in Cincinnati. I forget the year. 90 somewhere. Does anyone know who Stan Humphries even is anymore? Stan Humphries, a longtime San Diego Chargers quarterback, the quarterback that took the Chargers to their one and only Super Bowl, retired from a concussion in Cincinnati, and I was there. So I get it. I was there when Chris Dielman retired from a concussion and advised him, gave him lots of medical facts as
97 for Humphries, yeah.
97 for Humphries, okay? Yeah, it was either going to be 96 or 97, but definitely 97 was my first full year as the head team physician. God, that makes me sound old. But anyways, and I've had friends who CTE, and we're not trying to make this dark, and committed suicide, not just football players, X-game athletes and others that have unfortunately committed suicide.
You've been on the Hayden Hurst podcast before talking
I've
about
talked
certain
about
stories,
it,
yeah.
And so it's a topic that's very near, dear, and sacred to me. Good friends, 5 of them that were professional athletes, have committed suicide. Not all football players. And so I want to take this subject very seriously. But for educating the public, the fencing response, the posturing, the fingers and the arm and the hand does not indicate permanent damage. In fact, it doesn't necessarily indicate the severity of the concussion. Right now, if you see stars, it's a concussion. We've been trained not to say anything about mild traumatic brain injury. Remember that controversy the NFL started. There's nothing is mild. Everything is serious.
Severe.
So if you see momentary stars, that's a concussion. If you get knocked out unconscious for 20 minutes, that's a concussion. If you posture, that's a concussion. If you're a little wobbly oozy, but right yourself after 3 seconds, that's a concussion. But clearly they're not all the same kind of concussion. In the concussion world, we're still in the dark ages, the pre-MRI days of knee injuries, where everything was a knee sprain. You tore your meniscus, that was a knee sprain. Oh, we figured out meniscus. Let's just take it out. No big deal.
Yeah.
And then you get arthritis. An ACL, that's a trick knee. I mean, no big deal. Everything was a knee sprain. Clearly, not all knee injuries are the same. Clearly, not all concussions are the same. So we can't say 5 is too many. 1 may be too many. 6 may be okay, Mitch Morris. It all depends. So the decision to retire ultimately needs to be Tua, gather information, what does he want to do? He would need clearance from doctors, and he would need the team to agree too. So should he retire? I mean, look, I've said and tweeted, any concussion, and especially Tua's arguably 5th concussion in 5 years. Some might say 4, because only 2 in 2022 instead of 3.
The undocumented one, yeah.
Plus the one in college. Whether it's 4 or 5, any concussion, including your 4th or 5th, is career threatening. Period. End of discussion. Is it career ending? To be determined. So that's should Tua retire? I think ultimately, I won't get into the contractual implications. Has he made enough money? Has he not? What would he have to give back? I'll leave that to contract experts. But from a head point of view, 100%, if he has lingering symptoms, if he has any sort of early permanent damage or the potential of permanent damage, as a physician, I think you have to tell him to retire. if his risk of getting another concussion is higher because of multiple previous concussions, which is why he's not coming back to play this week or next week. As a matter of fact, I expect him to hit IR and miss at least 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. Miami doesn't need to make that decision for a little while here yet. I think that the decision ultimately is his. If you say it's not for sure, look, we don't know the link to CTE, and is he already going to get CTE, or is the next concussion going to give him CTE? That's an uncharted territory. I've already said it's safest to stop, period, end of discussion. But it's this overall assessment that needs to happen, and then he shouldn't make a decision. So should Tua retire? Should he consider retiring? Yes. Should the team consider not letting him play again? Yes. Too early to tell if it's factual, if he should retire. He should certainly put it on the board as a consideration. No question about it.
So, Doc, I have a question. Just if he does make the decision to come back, like the process on how he will return, and obviously the next question is if he will wear a guardian cap or not is also a question.
Well, first of all, will he? What's the process? Let's talk about the process. We talked about the concussion, and the key points are the posturing doesn't make it worse. He should retire, the whole deal, if he wants what's safest. But he's already indicated that he's not necessarily retiring,
right? And
he's going to weigh his options with his family, and that's his right and prerogative. No one would blame him if he quit. No one would blame him if he gathered all the information and felt it was safe to play. Look, we talked about it with the guy who hit him this time, ironically, Damar Hamlin. Mm-hmm. We never lobbied that Damar Hamlin should return to play. We said we believe that Damar Hamlin will have the option to return to play, and it will be his choice if he wants to. He was presented the option. He took it. Mm-hmm. Ironic, the hit wasn't horrible, and you can argue that bodes more poorly for Tua. But he did not only take the hit to the side of the head, but also hit the back of his head on the ground.
The whiplash as well.
The whiplash side. Yep. So what's the process? Let's talk about the process. Tua will get opinions from the Dolphins team physicians. Now, let's back up a second. Why am I even talking about this? And as you viewers know, followers, listeners, why is an orthopedic surgeon, bone doctor, bonehead talking about concussions? Fair question. The reason why is as the head team physician for an NFL team for 17 years, who was there when the concussion thing reached the forefront, I was required to go to multiple meetings. One in Washington, D.C., with the head athletic trainer in conjunction with the military that was studying concussions. One's in Indianapolis, other meetings. I was the point person to gather the opinions and organize them and relay them to our team, the team itself, but my team, our team of doctors.
Right.
The primary care doctor was the one who evaluated them on the field. The independent neuro was on the sideline, but I was kind of in charge of the neurology and the clearance process. So it's kind of like, and we'll get to it, Brian Daboll's the head coach. In the end, all decisions fall on him. It wasn't just the special teams coordinator. He's in charge of it. And so that's why he should rightfully answer about Graham Gano. We'll get back to that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm talking about concussions. Mm-hmm. The team would come to me and say, what do you think? What's this neurologist saying? What's this guy? This guy says he's retired. Filter it out for us. I'm the in-house counsel for the team, just like an in-house counsel for Qualcomm. They may not be filing the litigation, but they're advising Qualcomm.
You're in the room.
Advising Qualcomm is how the litigation is going,
right?
Whether they're a plaintiff or a defendant, and factoring in all those things. So that's why I talk about concussions. I'm not trying to be a neurologist, to be clear. But here's the process. Tua is going to see the in-house people, the independent neuro, etc. And he will likely see multiple neurologists and fly around the country to do so. And I'm sure they're gathering the list. He's not going to see just one. He's going to see at least two. And if the two agree, maybe he stops at two, but possibly three. That's what we hear in the coming weeks. Adam Schefter already tweeted, I believe, that he's going to see neurologists
Yes, he did.
this week, maybe. And believe it or not, I take it as a good sign. Fingers crossed. There is no point to see a neurologist if you're still having symptoms. If you can't see clearly, you still have headaches, you're light sensitive, your balance is off, your cognitive function is not there, you're not passing a neurocognitive test, there is no point to see a neurologist because you're going to fail the assessment and they're going to tell you you cannot return to football, period. So what's the point? For example, teams, not just Tua, but anyone who has a concussion, team physicians don't send them for the final clearance from the independent neuro until they know that they have no symptoms and they've passed the neurocognitive testing. Because why hassle sending him somewhere when you know he's not going to get cleared?
Right.
There's no point in Tua. If he wants a preliminary discussion and he's got symptoms, I suppose that's fine. But I see it unlikely that he's going to get on a plane and do all this if he's still symptomatic. That would not be recommended for the treatment for him. So if he indeed goes and sees, and we start hear about and flying around the country to see neuro specialists this week, I would take it, fingers crossed, as a good sign that he's at least cleared his symptoms. There's no point if your symptoms aren't clear to go talk to neurologists about his risk going forward. Your risk going forward is high, and you will be ruled out if you have any sort of current symptoms. And quite honestly, if he has lingering symptoms for a couple of weeks, I don't see how he returns to play. He only returns to play as his symptoms clear pretty quickly, and he returns to normal, and then he evaluates the relative risk with these 2 or 3 neurologists, etc. And they're going to want, hopefully, unanimous opinion. And it's a relative risk profile. It's not what you would do. It's what he wants to do. Look, I've talked about this related to kids before, and it's changing now. My wife is now probably okay with my son, who's 11 now, playing tackle football. When he was in kindergarten, the answer was a flat no. Yep. And I look at it this way. Look, riding a motorcycle is more dangerous than driving in a car, but it's not illegal. As long as you're riding a motorcycle safely, following rules. Even what's the only way to not get in a car accident?
Not driving.
Don't get in a car.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the only reason to not get a football-related injury or concussion is to don't play football. But
you're not saying not to play. You're just saying that's the best way to avoid the situation.
Parents have asked me this, and I've said, look, if your son loves another sport as much as he loves football, and that other sport is less dangerous, maybe that's the sport you steer him into as a parent.
Right.
But if he loves football and wants to play, then you got to make a decision, right? What's the importance to you?
Right.
Look, if your son is the stud baseball player, maybe you don't want him playing football because you don't want him injured for the baseball season.
Right.
Who knows? But if he loves playing football, then that, you've got a controversy there. So it's an individual desire. How much money is enough money? Look, we've seen Chris Borland walk away very early in his career. We've seen others walk away. We've seen others stick around, and it's a very individual decision. It was the same with Stan Humphries or Chris Dielman. It was like, here are the facts. You decide what's best for you. But if you're saying what's absolute best for your brain, it's to quit playing football. Period. We know that.
Yeah.
We know that. But, that's like my conversation with lots of players for, Doc, what's the best thing to do for my knee? I'm an orthopedist. What's the best thing to do for your knee? Lose 100 pounds and quit playing football.
Yes.
No. Yeah. I meant play football. What's the best thing to do for my knee and play football, right?
Yeah.
And so he's going to get multiple opinions. He's got to get clear of all symptoms. And once again, let's go back to it. If he has lingering symptoms, he won't be cleared, and he shouldn't be cleared ever. If he's got long-term risks, he should never be cleared. But the posturing that everyone worries about isn't necessarily indicative of a long-term problem. Every concussion is serious, but no 2 concussions are the same. They're like snowflakes. Any other questions there, or did we kill that topic?
We crushed it. Yeah, no questions on Tua. Thank
Doug
you.
is saying yes. Move on.
Yes.
Move on to other things.
Yes.
He's waving us on. Okay.
That's good too. Let's jump onto another big topic. And obviously, we have questions that are coming from the rundown. We'll answer all those when we get to them. Next thing is we, like you alluded to, the Gano situation. I want to just preface a little bit. He had a groin injury going into the game, popped up on the injury report. He picked up a hamstring injury. Austin Eckler got his opening kickoff waved off, but he was the one chasing him down. Obviously, this contributed to a little bit of what was going on during the game. Your thoughts on exactly what happened and why you should have a healthy kicker going to a game, I guess.
Okay. I missed it. Maybe you guys probably all had it. I just didn't rise to my level. That Gano was listed with a groin injury going into the game.
Right.
I did not know that. When we had the 10 games going on and he pulled up lame, chasing down Austin Eckler, the more of attention in the room was, oh, there's a penalty, it's coming back. And
nothing about who was chasing.
I had no idea that he came into the game with a groin injury of some sort, severity unknown. And let me make this clear. I have not examined Gano. I am not being critical of Brian Daboll. I'm just giving you a perspective from insider knowledge of how it works, not insider information. And I'm not being critical of Daboll, special teams coach. Ronnie Barnes is a long-time head of medical there. He's an athletic trainer. He's like a vice president in the organization. He's like a god in New York in the Giants. Love Ronnie Barnes. Lots of respect for him. This is not second guessing what role he had or the team physicians who I know there from HSS have decided or said.
Just analyzing from afar.
It's just analyzing the situation.
Right.
As a head team physician, I was always very worried about groin injuries on everyone, but especially a kicker, especially the dominant kicking leg of a kicker, because a groin issue is on the inside of your leg. So if you're a right-footed kicker, and nobody kicks straight ahead anymore, okay? Even in my time, nobody kicked straight ahead. Everyone was sweeping soccer-style kick. That puts a lot of pressure on the groin. So even the mildest groin injury would make me nervous because it could easily get worse on any field goal or any kickoff. And if that happens, then what? It's one thing when RB1 tries to play through a groin, aggravates it, or a hamstring, or a corner.
Soft tissue muscle.
Of any kind. There's an RB2 and an RB3. There are other players. There's no kicker too. You can say, well, just a punter. Not every team's punter can do that, and it's very different.
Right.
So we never liked soft tissue, lower extremity muscle injuries on a kicker, especially on the kicking leg, especially a groin. And maybe it was super minor and they thought it was fine. Don't know, not second guessing Daboll or anyone there. But that's raising the antenna, yellow flag, if not red flag number one. A dominant leg kicker.
It's called red flag. It's red flag number one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Number two, I mean, they have a kicker on their practice squad. I mean, as a coach, as a decision maker, would you rather have a better kicker? How much better would your starting kicker have to be if there was a chance on one kick he would then miss the rest of the game before you played your backup kicker? And it's a practice squad kicker that you could elevate. That's a hypothetical question. But, you know, if you had no backup kicker, but then you should sign one, right? But I mean, I would argue if you're within a few percentage, 10%, 20%, you got to go with the sure thing. When there's only one, unless you have the ability to activate two kickers, or unless your punter can really kick that well. And clearly they had no faith in the punter. He missed one kick.
He missed the extra point.
He missed the extra point, and they didn't kick again.
Right.
And they left points on the table, and they went for two and didn't get it, and they ended up losing by the last second field goal. They left 3 or 6 points on the table, depending on how you look at it, etc. So I think it's just risky to play through a groin issue on a kicker. Now, is the groin issue related to the hamstring? Same leg, same side. Would the hamstring have happened if he didn't chase down Austin Eckler? Probably not.
Yeah, that's true.
Was the hamstring probably more likely to happen based on compensation because of the groin? Probably. That's not to say the hamstring wouldn't have happened independent of the groin, but there's a potential relationship.
The risk was there going into the game, so potentially
the risk was there just for the groin,
right?
On the kicking leg,
right.
And then the hamstring happened, and as a different injury, maybe it's a different injury, but still there was risk there, and perhaps the groin could have made the hamstring more susceptible. Now, I would agree it's the Austin Eckler run back that made the hamstring susceptible.
He would have never ran like that unless that happened. Yes, for sure.
But yeah, so that's where I go, this was interesting.
Because they failed 2-point conversions as well on top of the missed.
Well, because they
couldn't
said we're not going to do that
right,
anymore.
Yes, yeah.
Kind of thing. So if you don't have confidence in the number 2 kicker,
which is your punter, I guess.
Which is your punter, which is one missed extra point and you're not going to kick anymore, then I would argue you might need to elevate that practice squad guy and use him. So Graham Gano now, hats off to him. And now, look, we're not inside the building. Maybe he said it was fine. Maybe it was just perfunctory to put it on.
He said he thought he could play through it. That's what he said.
Yeah,
but he said there's other factors that besides just the player, it should be other people making the decision, right?
Okay, let's go to Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why is Russell Wilson the emergency quarterback and not the backup? Because he's not completely healthy. You can't go into the game with 1.5 quarterbacks.
Right.
If Justin Fields is starting, Russell Wilson has an injury but isn't 100%.
He is hurt.
You need to activate 3 quarterbacks.
Right.
We talked about that before.
Mm-hmm.
By same token, you have to have one healthy kicker to start the game. Stuff can happen. I get it. And stuff has. I remember Carolina Panthers, a kicker got hurt pregame, right? And then they were, quote, doing tryouts on the field, which is ridiculous. It's
Jimmy Sly, I think it was. Yeah.
But in any case, you got some water there? Let me get some water there. Thank you. In any case, that was after the 90-minute inactive. So you're kind of stuck there, you know? So anyways, that's the Graham Gano. Any other questions? Look, and by the way, I'll make you a prediction. He's going to go in IR. Why is he going to go in IR? If he looks pretty good next week, can you play him? No. If he looks pretty good in 3 weeks, can you play him? No.
This situation can't happen again.
It can't happen again. He's going on IR, in my opinion. That'll give him 4 weeks to sort out. If you can't put him back in ahead of being clearly 100%.
All right, one final topic for the rundown I wanted to get into is just a Van Noy, and he commented on his podcast, just the treatment he got from the KC medical staff. I know we are, the KC medical staff, and he's at. I would just want to ask, who's at fault in the situation? He was able to play week 2, posted 2 sacks. Division was obviously, okay. Your thoughts on this situation, just because you've been in the room. First of all,
I know the Chiefs medical staff,
right?
And I think they're very good. But I'm not calling them to violate HIPAA and say, tell me this, that, the other. That's just not how I operate. Okay. By reputation, I would back the Chiefs medical staff. And quite honestly, look at all the compliments they've gotten for Patrick Mahomes with that dislocated kneecap, Travis Kelce the last season or the season before, etc. They've done a good job. They won Super Bowls. As far as what we said ahead of Rick Burkholder's news conference with the head coach, where he straightened some things out in Kyle Van Noy and Hollywood Brown. Look, what we said ahead of his speaking was there's a visiting team medical liaison that's an emergency doctor who's responsible for the eye and any emergent care issues of the eye. And if you go to a hospital because you have an emergent eye issue, there is no ophthalmologist on staff in the emergency room waiting to see you. An ophthalmologist might be on call at home, and the typical, if you're on call at home, is you have 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour to come in after your call,
okay,
depending on the situation.
That's just on-call, just guidelines.
Level 1 trauma centers across the country do not have an ophthalmologist in-house on staff for emergent eye issues.
There you go.
There is a call panel where you would call them and say, hey, I really need you to examine this guy's eye because I think there's a big problem here. And they have 30 minutes minimum.
And this is all specialists, right? Not just an eye. If it was another specialty. Okay.
Plastic surgeon's not in-house, right? And hand specialist is not in-house. Quite honestly, most times an orthopedist is not in-house. A traumatologist to rod your finger or put on an external fixer for your pelvis, yes, but not a, quote, regular orthopedist. And so he said he waited a quarter. First of all, so VTML was supposed to take care of it. I get it. He had his complaints, and he's emotional in his eye, and he's worried about it, so I don't begrudge him any of this. But talking about facts, I don't think the Chiefs did anything wrong there. And to fast forward it, Rick Burkhalter straightened it out saying he was on the field, offered help. They said he didn't need it. And then ultimately, when he was called about seeing an eye doctor, which the home team is not required to have, but every team pretty much does.
Okay.
And let me tell you how it worked with the Chargers, and this is how it worked throughout the league. You'd have a dentist, you'd have an ophthalmologist, sometimes you'd have a chiropractor, you have whatever specialty. There's on-field personnel. These are not on-field personnel. What teams typically do is say, you're a team ophthalmologist, you're a team dentist, come to physicals. We can get guys in to get their eyes checked or get their teeth fixed or a cavity filled on an urgent basis. You're a team doctor, dentist, ophthalmologist. And guess what? We'll give you 2 tickets to every home game, and you need to come, and a parking pass, and you need to come. And in exchange, if we call you, you come downstairs and check out a guy. It happens less than once a year that we would use a dentist or an ophthalmologist. And this is on both teams.
Right.
It doesn't happen that often. But most teams have that. The Chiefs had that. And according to Rick Burkhalter, when he was notified, he called the ophthalmologist and he was down there in 12 minutes. Okay.
It's pretty quick.
It's not bad.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know where his seats are and this waiting for elevators and how to get there and whatever. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's a non-controversy, even though I feel for Tagovailoa. And I'm glad to see he played and got 2 sacks. So hopefully controversy over. But I don't think the Chiefs mishandled anything there.
All right, Doc, let's jump into our big, long-awaited rundown. We have a lot of questions coming from many of the listeners. And
I probably went too long on my rant there. But
no, it's okay. Those are key topics, too, and the ones we were talking about. Okay, big one. First one we want to talk about, just on the questions, is let's talk about Isiah Pacheco and his fractured fibula, Doc, and timelines.
What's the latest on that? I see a lot of conflicting stuff. So let's go over what I have, then you guys update me on the latest.
Yes.
In game, saw it, close game, a lot of other action going on. And I looked at the video that you guys showed me, and I didn't think a lot of it. I didn't think a lot of it. We only had one angle, and I said, hopefully just a mild sprain and don't see a lot there. Then the reports came that he was in a boot and crutches. He was putting weight on it. And then there was reports that he was emotional and towel over his head. But we always judge by the injury, not the reaction to the injury. And I went back and looked at the video, and there was one close-up you guys showed me that maybe his foot actually gets caught into there. Was it a
trap a little bit? Yeah.
But there was bodies. It wasn't a clear shot view. And I said, well, I don't know. I mean, and then I did hear the rumors of fibula. We didn't delete any tweets or posts or whatever. We said, this is what it is. We
had to list Frank's thoughts up.
Yeah. And then the report came in that it's a fibula fracture.
So it's based on initial test fracture fibula. They're waiting for more information to the severity of it. Yeah.
Okay. But here's the thing. Schefter said it too. Like, they're getting an MRI to determine if ligaments or other things.
Right.
But here's my point. Stadium x-rays are very good at determining fractures. If there's a question whether there's a fracture or not, perhaps that's good news that maybe it's not. Maybe it's a blood vessel that looked like a fracture. Maybe it's a non-displaced fracture. And he was allowed to put weight on it. So, look, to be honest, I didn't see it. You want to call it wrong. But if the x-ray can't for sure see it, I don't know how you see it on video. But the bottom line is still to be determined what type of fracture, if there's ligament involved, and how much time. But the fact that he could stand and walk and he was put in the boot, crutches, but walking, even if he needs surgery, I don't think his season is done. A majority of his season is done, but whether it's late season or playoffs, I wouldn't rule him out for that yet.
This is an IR stint likely as well.
Yeah, he'll be on IR.
All that.
He'll be on IR, but is he back in 4 weeks? After 4 weeks, I doubt it, but he'll be back before the end of the Chiefs season, especially if the Chiefs go to the playoffs like everyone expects them to.
So many of us have done fantasy drafts. A couple of the top wide receivers got injured. Let's talk one of the top ones, Cooper Kupp and his ankle injury. I also have something to add. Do you think he's got like a Steph Curry ankle kind of situation? I feel like Kupp sometimes he gets ankle injuries and he can just
it's not a Steph Curry because Steph Curry is just running along and rolls his ankle and they get it taped and tie the shoelaces.
That's something I saw on Twitter. I wanted to ask you that.
This was an E version ankle sprain, a mild high ankle sprain. Knowing Cooper Kupp, well, I don't know him personally, but
knowing his injury history and
that dude would have returned to play if the game was close.
Yeah,
it just was at hand, and no Puka, this, that, the other. It just was out of hand, and it was live to fight another day, and that other day might be this next Sunday. I wouldn't rule him out yet.
No IR, right?
I don't think he's going on IR. I think, on all the wide receiver or all the injuries, Pacheco of the key fantasy injuries, Pacheco seems to be the worst. Cooper Kupp is not the worst. Not the best, but not the worst. There's better news coming up.
Let's jump into Justin Jefferson, his quad injury. What are your thoughts on him and playing this week?
I think he plays. It's a muscle contusion. Whiplash by Fred Warner. High thigh on the outside of his hip. Yes, the quad runs there.
We thought hip. Yeah, we thought hip at first.
That's where he hit high quad, high thigh, hip, anterior lateral hip, whatever. What's in a name? Okay. It's called a quad contusion, but that's what it is. It's a muscle contusion. They'll keep it loose. The athletic trainers and doctors will keep him going. JJ plays this next week is my anticipation.
The other wide receiver that kind of had a little quad thing and then suffered maybe an ankle MCL type was Amon-Ra St.Brown. We had a 6-score 71 going into this week. What are your thoughts on him?
I would raise it. Yeah. He had a quad contusion, and then he left a second time after he escaped a potential MCL high ankle situation because his foot wasn't trapped.
Right.
But it was so late in the game, there wasn't time for him to come back. He's just beat up and banged up a little bit, but I would expect him to play next week as well.
All right, let's flip to one of the so we had a confusing questionable all the way to Saturday was Jordan Love. We kind of didn't expect him to play at all this past week. He was questionable all the way to Friday, and then he was doubtful. You said a little bit of call from the league, maybe say, hey. Obviously explain your thoughts on him going week 3 and so forth.
Well, there is a lot of latitude for questionable. Questionable, as the old school pre-Gerard Mayo Patriots proved, could mean anywhere from 99% playing to almost for sure not playing, right? I mean, questionable has lots of leeway. They got rid of probable, so that's questionable, doubtful, and out. When you told me on Friday he was questionable, you probably saw my eye roll, like, okay,
without practicing at all,
whatever. And it wouldn't surprise me if the league said, "What are you doing, guys?" I mean, he's a quarterback. Don't make us look bad. Is he really questionable? What are his chances of playing? And they might have said, "We're just keeping hope alive at 5%." Well, then he needs to be doubtful, and he got downgraded to doubtful.
I think no IR is keeping hope alive, right? They're just doing a little playing the dance, I guess.
Well, remember his kneecap popped, and his knee popped and shifted, and he's done for the season in ACL. It's like, no, admit his ankle was trapped. It ended up being an MCL. The knee pop was never anything. We're just like, no, I think he's going to avoid IR. I still say Vikings week 4 is when he comes back. So
Titans this week, no, and then maybe next week. You're saying, okay,
that's the earliest target in my mind.
That's a far cry from, like you said, the initial thought that maybe he was out for multiple weeks. I mean, like a season, IR and such.
Look, I would rather be a Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love than Miami and Tua.
There you go. Yes. AJ Brown, speaking of the Monday game, he picked up a hamstring injury, a la kind of T. Higgins situation in the middle of practicing. What are your thoughts on him playing this week? He got the short turnaround.
Well, he's out tonight.
Tonight. Yes, correct. Already out.
And then who knows the severity, and there's no video. It's a practice injury.
And he's got some speed to him too. He's not just a big body receiver. So
look, if this were the playoffs next week, I think AJ Brown tries to play because he can catch the ball a bunch of different ways. But because it's not, and it's still early season, no one wants to turn this into a 6-8 week hamstring or more. I would lean towards no right now, but it's too early to tell. They haven't even played this game,
right?
You know, now what turns up the pressure is if the Eagles can't do much without AJ Brown, and look, come out there at least as a decoy and do something, and that way the coverage isn't changed and what have you. It changes the game a little bit. Look, if Justin Fields and the Steelers got shellacked in weeks 1 and 2, Russell Wilson would start week 3. Is Russell Wilson 100% weekly? No, but you get what I'm saying. And I'm not disparaging anyone. I'm just saying that there's a lot of gray area out there. And if the Eagles do well, there's a lot more room to give AJ Brown a little more time.
So your best thing when you said about Russell Wilson and Fields is like the first week, if they lose the game, they'll be like, Russell, we need you to come back. And if they win, then they're like, hey, take a week off, and that's what they're 2-0 right now, so they can keep on playing that.
Well, I think Justin Fields fortuitously is the right guy for them right now because their O-line is a hot mess. The center with the rotator cuff and the left guard for the left guard and running the ball. But the question now is the rubber meets the road where, okay, single high safety, 8 men in the box. Now what?
Yes. What are you going to do now? And he has
now maybe Justin Fields can pass the ball and be effective there. That's
in that offense.
That's going to be the question mark.
So we had a huge conversation. One of our past guests, Warren Sharp, on remember the hip drop tackle and what it would mean. Joe Mixon in his ankle, it seemed like he was a recipient of that kind of tackle, but there was no call. And I think that was what you spoke to. It's going to be very hard to call that, right? Even if it's called a lot. Your thoughts on that?
It's very hard to call that, and we haven't had a single call of it yet.
Right.
Although
we've had a couple missed calls, maybe.
A couple guys got fined after the fact.
Yep.
But very hard
to call it live on the
live, to take the 4 elements. I mean, they say 2, but it's really 4 elements.
Yes.
And swinging. And I think they're taking care of it with fines. But like we said with Warren Sharp, roughing the passer and body weight penalties are still going to be the more penalized stuff. And the hip drop tackle isn't going to up scoring because they're not going to call it very much. They're going to take care of it with fines until perhaps maybe referees get more used to it. Since there's a lot of discussion about there not being any called, there might be a reminder. Maybe you need to call one to call attention to it. Look, how many offsides calls like we did.
Oh, the illegal procedure
in the backfield have been since week 1 or day 1.
There was not that many the week 2, right? There was a lot week 1. Yeah.
They made their point.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And now everyone's kind of whatever. So we may see that temporary bump, but I'm not arguing. Look, Joe Mixon's right. We've been saying for years it's a dangerous play. It's as dangerous as a horse collar.
The Kenyon Drake-Ermer situation, we said that when it happened to him.
Even before.
Yeah.
And Joe Mixon's comment was interesting. He said, put your money where your mouth is, and you got to call this. Well, they are putting their money where their mouth is. They're fining people.
Later. Yeah. Yeah, they are
fining people, right? And it's a high ankle. He came back into the game, didn't look himself. I'm not surprised if Joe Mixon misses this week.
Okay. And they have Damon Pierce with the hamstring, so they might have Cam Akers behind the.
I get Joe Mixon came back in the game.
Yep.
Doesn't mean he doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
If he misses this week. It's all key about how he feels the next day in terms of overnight swelling.
One player that avoided IR is tight end Jake Ferguson. MCL, you think he's another week? It was too doubtful. Was a little.
I love Cowboy fans, and I don't know if you know this. Growing up, I liked the Cowboys.
You're a Cowboys fan.
I liked Roger Staubach.
Okay.
And I liked, my 2 favorite teams growing up. Grew up in LA. I don't know why I didn't love the Rams. The Rams didn't move for some of the time, but I like the white hats and the black hats.
Okay.
What does that mean? I like the Cowboys because they were the white hats.
Yep.
And I like the Raiders because they were the black hats. I know I'm Charger guy, whatever, but as a kid, that's what I liked.
Yeah.
So I love Cowboys fans and their passion. But Dr. Jerry Jones, Dr. Jerry, we affectionately call him, trying to speak into existence Jake Ferguson playing this week was not
hard to do.
Happen.
Yeah.
but he has been successful in saying he's not on IR. Now, I get it. Everyone's going to jump down. I did a nice little thing with Mike Fish. Mike Fish does a great job down in Dallas. And he asked, is he playing? I said, he's more likely to go on IR than play this next week. So he hasn't played this next week, but he also hasn't gone on IR. But I think we're still right on that.
Another week, yeah, maybe in there. Yeah,
I still don't know that he plays this next week, but it's good news that he's even alive, right? To be not figuratively alive. In other words, still on the roster,
right?
Potentially available, not actually alive,
right?
But bone bruise is something that you don't want to mess with, and we've talked about it.
Like Lamar, you said you need rest and so forth when you have something like that. One last one. I had a comment before we wrap this rundown up is T. Higgins. We talked about the AJ Brown pick up the hamstring up. He's already missed week 1 and 2. Your thoughts on Higgins coming back from his hamstring?
We don't know the severity.
Yeah,
and he hasn't practiced at all.
Yeah.
So does he have a chance this week? Maybe. But
it was called a tweak when it first happened. It seems like it was more than that. Yeah.
And a lot of muscle injuries are called tightness, and they turn into strains.
Or knee soreness always turns into something. It's baseball. Elbow soreness.
Elbow soreness turns into UCL, tightness, right? I mean, we'll see. I don't know, but if he's in the running for questionable this week, and that'd be good progress, and then maybe he plays week 4. He's getting closer. But he's got a chance, but I don't know that he's guaranteed to play this week.
Kevin O'Connell just spoke on Justin Jefferson and said day-to-day due to his quad contusion, and said it's pretty positive it's an early return. So that's what we alluded to just earlier on Jefferson.
We love Kevin O'Connell. San Diego State kid.
There you go. All right. Do you have a beast of a week in mind, Doc? That was the last thing I had. I didn't have anybody in mind at all.
Let me do a positive beast.
Yes, do one. Yes, please.
Number 2 on the football field. That's his jersey number. He's a back judge in the Minnesota game.
Good choice. Yes, I like this.
Go to the Twitter, or maybe you guys will put up a link or show it. That guy.
The JJ touchdown, the 97-yarder.
The 97-yard Justin Jefferson touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Watch that guy move. Oh my gosh, he's a back judge.
It looks like your video's sped up a little bit.
I'm not saying he's faster than Justin Jefferson, but boy, he stays in the frame. And quite honestly, he's the first guy to hit the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
Now, admittedly, Justin Jefferson had a weave, and the safeties and the DBs are trying to
cut back
and whatever. And he was running a little more straight. But not only does he run fast and stay in the picture, I mean, he's got great speed, but oh my gosh, I don't know how old this guy is. I mean, referees are usually not, young.
Youthful,
but there's been a youth movement in referees, no question. But most impressively, late in his speed run, he flips his hips and doesn't miss a stride and is running backwards into the end zone. You got to look at this video. I got to make this guy. What's his name again? Tyree Wilson? No.
Woolley, I think it was.
Tyree Woolley? I forget. We found his name, but got to give that guy a shout out for the Beast of the Week. That was unbelievable how he ran down the field like that. And I guess the final shout out, and I promised I'd talk about this story, is to the 2 chain gang members. The one in last night's game that fell backwards and maybe hit his head, and the other one in the Baltimore Ravens and Raiders game that needed CPR.
And there was 3 actually. Steelers Broncos, a sideline worker was also injured on the side. There was 3 separate instances.
I didn't know. Jeez.
Yes.
I mean, I remember we had a Monday night football or Sunday night football game, and one of the chain gang guys just passed out, and we attended to him. And after that, the Chargers made a move to try and get the chain gang members to be younger. It's a tough deal, though. It's a coveted job. You don't get paid much, but boy, how much fun. And
Tyree Walton is his name, by the way. Shout out to him.
Okay. Yes, shout out to him, the back judge. These chain gang members, like, if you have a chance to operate the chain or be on the NFL sideline of the home team that you love, it probably takes a while seniority to get up there. And once you're there, you probably don't want to give it up. And quite honestly, I don't know about other states, but some states, you can't just say you're too old, we're not using you anymore. That's age discrimination, right? So what's the process? I don't know. But we want people to be safe on the sidelines. I know they don't allow kids on the sidelines ever because of that reason. But perhaps there's an agility test or this, that, the other. Well, I don't know. If there's an agility test now, I might fail it. So there might be some other doctors that fail being on the sidelines, or perhaps you need to be. If you pass an agility test, you can be up front. If not, you have to be 10 yards back or something. I don't know. I mean, just remember,
Fine line,
just remember when they come at you, move sideways. Backwards is never
not gonna
quick
work.
enough. If you go backwards, the bull's going to get you.
Yep.
You're a bullfighter. You got to go to the side.
Mhm.
That's the only way to
I've heard
get
that.
you. Shout out Nate Kading, but that's a whole nother story. You can look that up in the podcast. Our old kicker.
I do want to shout out our we do have college football content always. I did want to say you're the Wisconsin quarterback. You thought that there's an ACL tear in play. They haven't announced yet, but a severe right injury. He might be out for the season.
I think he's out for the season, and I saw what you guys did there. As soon as I said, "Yeah, that's an ACL tear,"
you gave it the green light on some other boxes on the SIC Picks. Yes, the information.
You
was
all
good.
went crazy in game and took Alabama in game, and it paid off, right? I mean, yeah,
it's the live stuff we do on NFL as well. So just something,
yeah,
just an example of what was happening.
That's the one thing is we're the only source of live in-game injury information, right? I mean, because what we do is analysis. We're not waiting for the reports, and we're not perfect. Joe Mixon, it looks like we're wrong there, but we gave some optimism on Amon-Ra St.Brown and Justin Jefferson and others and so forth. All right. So hopefully this live format works. Did you get everything?
Yep. All the questions have been answered. We're good. Yeah. And make sure people, if they want to go back and listen to the rundown, just rewind the video when it's posted and you'll be able to watch afterwards.
Or Apple or
Spotify all that. Yes,
or
absolutely.
Believe Network, whatever you want to call it. And by the way, I'll just tell everyone now, we're not sure if whether it's 10:30 or 11 next week or 1:30 or 2 Eastern.
You will give out
but we'll make an announcement Saturday or Sunday,
Yep.
just logistically, whatever is best for everybody. Who knows? Maybe we'll get our stuff together here to be on time for 10:30, or maybe it's just better pushing it to 11 and not stressing.
It's the guy that's not doing the text says that, but yes, we'll try to do the 10:30 for sure. Yes.
Oh, you want the 11? No, we can do the 11.
Whatever works for everybody, obviously. Yeah.
All right. We got all the questions.
Yes, we're good.
Hopefully
we're all answered.
Like this in halftime injury chat still. Give a like and subscribe. That's what all the cool kids say. Whenever I see my kids' videos, I see that pop up all the time. So
thing up. Yep.
Ding.
Yes.
Whatever that means.
Yep.
All right. Anything else there, Doug? We good?
Oh yeah, SIC Picks as well. We're going to be posting college, NFL all throughout, and we're going to have a guaranteed pick, 5-star pick going this week as well.
Well, the algorithm's been hot.
Yes.
I mean, look, I with others just grade the numbers, and when you all came to me, first of all, week 1, the numbers said Jacksonville to take Jacksonville against Miami, and everyone loved Miami week 1, right? I was like, no, I can see that. The hook was good, and the hook saved us, even though with a cruise,
the Etienne
fumble. This week, when the numbers spit out Minnesota after the dominant performance of the 49ers, I will admit, I said, let's check the numbers. Let's check the numbers. But that's what the numbers said.
They spit out so high with Cardinals as well. We should have, like you said, took money line for both of
them. The numbers are so high on Minnesota. Yeah, why didn't you tell everyone money line and make them some money? No, I mean, obviously it was a no sweat cover.
That would have been a good little parlay with both of those guys. Yep.
And the other one was Arizona against Kyler Murray over Matt Stafford.
Yep.
And that one was as easy as it got.
Marvin Harrison, 2 touchdowns, set it away from the start. Yep.
So the 3 highest 6-score differentials this year, the 3 that we in the room were the most nervous on, but we said we have to trust the process. The highest 6-score differentials have been all good.
Those 3, Jaguars,
even
Minnesota,
though it
and
made
Arizona.
us very nervous, and that's what we do. We try and take away the feelings about how good a team is supposed to be, but just look at the health numbers, and that's what we've shown is, it's not perfect. This week, you guys are what, 9-3?
9-3 this week, adding the props and stuff as well. Yeah,
there was 1 tie, but who cares? I mean, whatever. 9-3-1, whatever it is.
2 ties, 2 ties.
Okay,
who cares?
Whatever. 9-3-2.
I'm the only one that says it.
This is props, totals, second half,
absolutely.
And starting games,
yes,
etc. And but to me, the bigger ones, the 3 we've been surest on so far, even though it made us nervous by the numbers, have all come in.
I do want to add your Bills first half one. That was a pretty for sure one too, because I personally did that. It was 24-7 at half, I believe. So that was a good one too, if you want to add that there.
Yeah, Bills, that was a good one too. That's what the numbers said there too. So look, we just go by the health numbers, and what our theory is that everything else evens out in terms of coaching, scheme, home and away, travel, weather, everything evens out in the line.
We have
But the hidden
yeah.
injuries are the big difference. Obviously, if it's Jordan Love, everyone knows about it, but do you really know about the offensive line or DBs or otherwise? And that's
like the Minnesota one. It wasn't just CMC. It was Drake Greenlaw, Hufanga, multiple issues. Yeah.
Trent Williams,
right.
and this, that, the other issues. All right. Thanks for watching, listening. Pro Football Doc, Sports Injury Central podcast. Thumbs up, like, subscribe, ding, ding. And we'll see you next week, either at 10:30 or 11 Pacific or 1:30 or 2 Eastern. Thanks for watching and listening.